Hi everybody. If you're watching this video, it means that you were absent yesterday. So what we're going to go over quickly in this video is how to do a general box plot. You can definitely look at a copy of notes to get all the blanks that get filled in for, let me get through all this stuff, through this page right here. But in general, the things I want you to take away from this is each little piece of this is 25%. So every single percent on here is 25%. What this little diagram is what's called a box and whisker plot. And all it does is summarize a set of data and displays it along a number line. It has three parts to it. You have your box and you have two whiskers. So if we start with the left-hand side, this part right in here, this is what we call our left whisker. Our left whisker extends from the minimum value to quartile 1. We call it Q1 for short. That quartile gives you 25% of the data. Next, we have the box. The box is just what you think it is, the part where it says box. That extends from the first quartile all the way to the third quartile. And it has a vertical line drawn through the median. This box is going to contain 50% of the data points. One thing that we like to find out to figure out how much data contains 50% of it is what's called the interquartile range. The interquartile range is the distance from quartile 1 to quartile 3. The final part, the right whisker. The right whisker over here, sorry about that. That one extends from the quartile 3, also known as Q3, all the way to your maximum value. Just like your left whisker, it makes up 25% of your data. I know this seems very overwhelming looking at all these definitions. However, once we get to doing the problem, I think it's going to make a little bit more sense for you. So if you look at these definitions and how to figure this stuff out, let's go ahead and go through it. Even though I go in numerical order, Q1, Q2, Q3, we're going to start with how to figure out Q2. So we're going to call this letter A. All that is the median of all the data. Remember, median is just the middle. We just discussed that on today's notes. So the median is just the middle point. From there, we're going to figure out what quartile 1 and quartile 3 is. So quartile 1 is the median or the middle of the data on the left of the median overall. And so quartile 3 is the median of the data on the right. Finally, your interquartile range is you're going to take the value that you get for Q3 and subtract it from the value that you get Q1. So again, like I said, I understand that this takes a lot of information to write down. It's a lot of information to write down. However, once you see how the problems actually work out, they're really not so bad. And you get to draw some cool box and whisker plots in the process. So let's look at our first example, talking about agriculture. Now notice, all of these numbers are already ordered from least to greatest. When you look at the classwork, numbers 1 through 5 on the number line side, you're going to see that those numbers do have to be put in numerical order before you can get any further. But for our purposes and what you're going to have on your test and in the notes, everything has already been given to you in the correct order to make things as straightforward and easy as possible. So the first thing we're going to fill in is our minimum values and our maximum. So my minimum is 303. My maximum is 321. Those are my smallest and biggest numbers. The next thing we have to do is figure out the median of all the data. The median represents Q2, quartile 2. That is our center vertical line. So if I go through and kind of tally off each of my points here, I find that 314 is my median of all of my data. Now, looking at quartile 1, also known as the lower quartile, so quartile 1, what I need to do is figure out the median of everything to the left of that center point. So notice my center is at 314. That one that is circled, I'm not going to include when figuring out my median value. So again, if I kind of tally off each side to find the direct middle, I find that 311 is the exact middle. Now for these lower quartiles and upper quartiles, you just might get a decimal, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of decimals. Just go back and make sure that you ordered your numbers from least to greatest on the classwork. The upper quartile is quartile 3. So again, now I'm going to look at the numbers to the right of my median. And again, I'm going to go through and kind of tally off to find my exact center, which is 316. Once I go through and I figure out what my exact center is, all these quartiles, Q1, Q2, and Q3, kind of make up my little box that I'm going to put on my number line. So I'm going to start by drawing a line on the 311. So I'm going to find 310 and go over one line. My next line, see, I drew that one. My next line is 314. So again, I'm going to find 314 and draw another line. My final number is 316. So I'm going to find my final number and draw a third line. I connect the tops and the bottoms, and you have your box. From there is where I'm going to take my minimum and my maximum. So my minimum value is at 303. So here's the 300. I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3. So right here is 303, and I'm going to draw my whisker. Now I'm going to count over to 321 and draw a dot and bring that line back to my box. And now I have my other whisker. The one thing it doesn't say anywhere to do that I like to do to make things easier is, even though I already have my box and whisker plot already drawn out, I like to go through and label my percents to make answering the questions that follow a lot more straightforward and quicker. So each little piece of this is 25. Now remember, we said the box is 50% total. That means on the left side of the median is 25, and on the right side. So looking at letter C, it's asking us what percentage of years harvested more than 314 million acres. So here's 314 million. I want to know more than. So if you look above it, you see that you have two 25s written down. Well, 25 plus 25 is 50%. Letter D, you'll see, is slightly different than your question. I reworded it so it was clear on what I was looking for. It says, what percentage of years harvested less than 311 million acres? Well, here's 311 million. So I want less than, so that's going in this direction. Notice there's only 125 in that area, so it is 25%. The final type of question that I'm going to ask is, what is the interquartile range of the data? So remember up top when we went through and computed those out, our Q3 value, so the right side of my box, was 316. My Q1 value, the left side of the box, was 311. To find the interquartile range, I just subtract those two numbers. So 316 minus 311, I think some of you are ahead of me already, is equal to 5. Something I want to point out to you. If you want to write down example 2 from the notes that are already posted yesterday, feel free to go ahead and write that one down. But I do want to run through one of these double stacked problems. So if we flip to example 3, it's talking about the average monthly rainfall in both Miami and New Orleans. So sometimes your box and whisker plot will be above the line, sometimes it will be below the line, And sometimes you'll have more than one box and whisker plot drawn, and that's all okay. We're just going to answer the questions as it pertains. So if we look at letter A, it's saying what percentage of the months that had an average of 4.5 inches more or more rain in Florida. So when I look at these box and whisker plots, they don't really make a lot of sense because I don't have my percents written down. So I'm going to write all those percents on here to make it a little bit quicker and easier to answer these questions. Okay, now that I have those down, I'm looking for Miami, 4.5 inches or more. So if I look at Miami, 4.5 inches or more, that contains 225s, so that means 50% of the months had an average of 4.5 inches or more rain. Letter B is saying, what is the approximate median inches in New Orleans? So median means the exact middle. Remember, median is the exact middle. So if I look at New Orleans and I bring that up top, you will see that there is just about 5.5 inches of rain. That is the median rainfall in New Orleans. Letter C, the final thing it's asking is, what is the interquartile range for Miami? So if we look at the right side of my box, 7.5 is the middle. This is just before it. So we could call this, I don't know, we'll call it 7.4. And if we look at the left-hand side of the box, 2.5 is just after it. I think we'll call it 2.4. If we subtract 7.4 minus 2.4, you end up with 5, and that is your interquartile range. So make sure that if you were absent yesterday, you take your time and go through and answer 1 through 5 on the number line side for your classwork, and make sure you complete your exit slip. If you need a more complete copy of the notes, they are also posted on yesterday's date, May 3rd. Again, I hope you guys had a fantastic day. Thanks, and I will see you all on Monday.